Okay, in this little clip, what I'd like to talk about is some shapes that often are used in ads, again, to help direct your attention. So here we still have an example of pointing down to the name of the product. We then would have sort of a shape where we would read the ad by looking at the name of the product, looking at her face because it's lit, it's well lit, and then her arm is also doing what? Her arm is again pointing to the watch, and so essentially we have kind of like this C type of shape that's being used, and that's a very traditional shape that is used in ads. So some other shapes that are used are S's, V's, T's, I's. Those are some other common shapes that are used. Sometimes they'll use a shape because we're seeing the shape of North America and South America in this ad for the Nature Conservancy, and so we want to fill it in, and then it draws us in so that we want to then read the copy. And notice that the little tip of South America is again pointing down to the text. And so here's an example of a very nicely designed ad. It does have a lot of copy. It's using the colors, the color scheme of Nature Conservancy. Their branding is always, of course, because they're an environmental organization, in green. And so we have the green being used, and we have their signature being used right down at the bottom of the ad. Should I hold this up? And then here is an example from the master of all advertising, I think, Oprah. So here's an example where we have an ad for Oprah for something that's coming up in her April issue. And so we see that instead of simply having just a very boring list of the topics that she's doing for the April issue, instead it's in the shape of O for Oprah. And so again, it's using a letter, a non-traditional letter, but then Oprah has sort of made the O her letter, right? Or here's another example of a shape. This is at the bottom of this ad. It's using the star. So this is a branding technique that many of you in New England will find familiar. So Macy's often will use a star in their ad, and so they're using that shape to essentially reinforce their brand. And so this will often be found in Macy ads. Or here's like a really unusual one. I thought it was quite creative. So this is really for bathroom products and and bathroom fixtures and things of that nature. But if you notice, there's all kinds of little shapes in this ad. So there's a W here, there's an M here, there's a couple other shapes. This one sort of looks kind of like a 7 perhaps. And so the idea, and you also have the water pointing down to the name of Kohler, of the name of the product. So we have a lot of really interesting things going on. We also have a little framing going on. We have a black frame in this case, but then the circular pattern is bringing everything down in the frame as well. So that was another example in this ad. And then finally, one last example. And in this example, we have the shape of essentially the bird, the angel type of shape that's in the shape of the beverage as it is. The cork is popped, and so again, I'm sure this was all nicely photoshopped because this doesn't happen in real life, but because of the shape draws your attention into the product.